American air power going against targets in the Middle East didn't start with Operation Enduring Freedom, or even Desert Storm for that matter. The first significant strike was conducted in December of 1983 by carrier-based assets going against Syrian militant positions in Lebanon's Bekaa Valley. And it was, in many ways, a disaster, one that fundamentally changed the way the U.S. Navy does strike warfare. The chain of events that led up to the ill-fated strike started 6 weeks earlier in Beirut, when a suicide bomber detonated a truck bomb with the explosive power of 21,000 pounds of TNT onto the Marine Corps barracks near the airport, killing 220 Marines, 18 sailors, and 3 soldiers, making this incident the deadliest single-day death toll for the United States Marine Corps since the Battle of Iwo Jima in World War II. Minutes later, a second suicide bomber struck a French military barracks a few miles away. 58 French paratroopers were killed and 15 injured, which made it the single worst French military loss since the end of the Algerian War. The French government retaliated on November 18, 1983, with an airstrike on an Islamic Revolutionary Guard base on the outskirts of the town of Baalbek in the Bekaa Valley. Super Entendards off of the aircraft carrier Clemenceau attacked shortly before sundown. The strike partially damaged one building and killed 39 Shiite militants. There was no response from military air defenses, and all of the Super Entendards returned safely to Clemenceau. For their part, the Americans did nothing at first because of a disagreement between Reagan administration Secretary of State George Shultz and Secretary of Defense Caspar Weinberger about whether they could prove that Hezbollah, supported by Iran, was behind the Beirut bombing. Shultz was convinced and ready to strike. Weinberger, who in the first place never thought stationing Marines at the airport would deter the ongoing civil war there, didn't agree. That tension trickled down to the operational mission planners working for the Commander-in-Chief U.S. Forces Europe, who didn't move forward on a contingency strike plan while waiting for the National Command Authority to tell him what to do. This episode is sponsored by Atlas VPN, now offering the best VPN deal on the market. Enjoy the most affordable online protection for just $1.79 per month, plus 4 months extra, and all with a 30-day money-back guarantee. With Atlas VPN, you can unlock your favorite content from all over the world. Can't access Friends or other legendary shows on your Netflix while abroad? That's not a problem anymore because Atlas VPN has got you covered. Looking for something on Google? With Atlas VPN, you can search the web with real and organic search results and do it without having your activity tracked. And this is more than just a VPN. It blocks all the malicious links, ads, and trackers and notifies you when someone is trying to steal your data. Also get the best deals while shopping online, including online subscriptions like Netflix and Spotify, airlines, hotels, and more. And Atlas VPN protects all of your devices with a single subscription. With this summer deal, Atlas VPN Premium is just $1.79 per month plus 4 months extra, all with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Protect your privacy and get the other benefits of Atlas VPN for a ridiculously low price. You can take advantage of this deal by clicking on the link in the video description below. But hurry, because this is a limited time offer. Meanwhile, down the chain of command, Vice Admiral Edward Martin, a former Vietnam War POW who was now in charge of the 6th Fleet that controlled all of the U.S. Navy assets in the Mediterranean Sea, ordered his battle fleet commander at sea, Rear Admiral Jerry O. Tuttle, to get ready to strike targets in Lebanon, wherever they might be. Rear Admiral Tuttle was both legendary and notorious, known as a big-picture innovator and a short-tempered taskmaster. He spent the first half of his career as an A-4 Skyhawk pilot, logging 260 combat missions over Vietnam. He commanded VA-81, Carrier Air Wing 3, and the USS John F. Kennedy CV-67. Now, not only was he the 6th Fleet Battle Fleet commander, he was also the commander of Carrier Group 2, coincidentally aboard Kennedy with CAG-3 embarked. In those days, there was a 2-carrier presence requirement in the Med at all times because of all the goings-on in that particular area of responsibility, including the antics of Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi's Navy and Air Force around the Gulf of Sidra and the growing threats to Israel from militant groups in Lebanon and Syria. So in company with the USS John F. Kennedy was the USS Independence, CV-62, with Carrier Air Wing 6 aboard, fresh from conducting the invasion of Grenada. Rear Admiral Tuttle took Vice Admiral Martin's direction to the next level, having his 2 carriers alternate being in an Alert 30 status every 24 hours. One carrier would conduct a normal cyclic operations schedule, flying from about 10 in the morning until 10 at night, while the other did the same, but also had fully briefed crews sitting in the ready room in full flight gear and airplanes on the flight deck loaded with the ordnance ready to go throughout the day. Maintaining that alert status while flying a full schedule every other day was a grind, and air crews and maintainers were increasingly fatigued as the month of November wore on. Finally, on December 1st, the carriers received direction to stand down from constant alert. But the worn-out sailors had no sooner released a collective exhale when, following a Tomcat getting shot at by a Syrian SAM during a reconnaissance mission, at about 0300 hours on the morning of December 3rd, a flash order arrived from 6th Fleet to execute strikes against 6 specific targets in Lebanon, with a time on target of 0700 hours, only 4 hours later. The order was initially believed by the battle group staff to have been sent in error, but as messages and voice traffic flashed between the carriers and 6th Fleet, it became obvious that this order was coming from the highest level, and any concern about what it was going to take to carry out the order was a distant second. On top of that, even though the aviators had planned strikes against more than 300 targets during the previous weeks, all approved by the Commander-in-Chief U.S. Forces Europe, only one of the 6 specified targets had actually been prepared by them. The other 5 were all new, not to mention militarily irrelevant, planned at Sinkyur. Aircraft were not ready or correctly spotted on the flight deck, proper ordnance for the new targets had not been loaded, and crews were not briefed. Kennedy had returned all bombs and missiles from the flight deck to the ordnance locker down below and was making ready to transit the Suez Canal. The CAG-6 airplanes aboard Independence were armed with heavy bombs in anticipation of orders to attack hard targets, but those bombs had to be replaced with those more suitable for use against the anti-aircraft emplacements that were now part of the new tasking just handed down. While the aircrew were awakened after only a few hours of sleep, the battle group staff confirmed that the time on target was an absolute that had to be met, even though the 2 air wings had originally planned for their strikes to occur in the late afternoon, like the French had done a few weeks prior, to take advantage of the optimum lighting for target recognition. At 0630, a total of 28 aircraft launched off the 2 carriers. The Kennedy, which was the first to deploy with 2 A6 squadrons in the air wing, launched 12 of them, 7 from VA-85 and 5 from VA-75. Independence launched 5 A6s from VA-176, along with 4 Ka-6D tanker versions of the Intruder. Indy also launched a dozen A-7Es from VA-15 and VA-87. The CAG-6 commander, Captain Ed Hunyak Andrews, was in one of the VA-15 jets. In addition to the Strikers were Tomcats flying combat air patrol and Prowlers ready for on-call jamming from both air wings. Because of the compressed schedule and the ordnance changes and the press to make the assigned time on target, the jets in the strike package launched as soon as they were ready, which caused the formation to get strung out as they proceeded over the beach. That and the fact that the entire package ingressed along the exact same axis with the early morning sun highlighting them in the western sky gave the Syrian gunners a big advantage. The sun angle also saddled the aviators with a disadvantage in terms of target recognition on the first pass, as the shadows from the mountains mixed with the ground fog and shaded the targets. Remember, these were the days before smart weapons, when crews had to actually point the nose of their airplanes towards the ground and pickle their bombs with a high level of skill. The anti-aircraft fire and infrared SAM launches, something the Prowlers couldn't counter, were intense as soon as they went feet dry. The subsonic attack airplanes flew as low and as fast as they could, popping off chaff and flares in attempts to make the missiles miss. Near the end of the formation was Buckeye 556 from VA-85, the one intruder that had managed to get a full load of bombs, and as a result was slower than the rest of the package. Buckeye 556 was hit by an IR SAM, and the pilot, Lieutenant Mark Lang, and his bombardier navigator, Lieutenant Bobby Goodman, both ejected. Lang is believed to have been injured during the ejection, and he was dead before he hit the ground. Goodman was captured by Syrian troops and taken to a jail in Damascus. CAG Andrews, in an A-7 from the other air wing, assumed on-scene commander duties over the crash site, but in short order, he too was hit by an IR SAM. He managed to wrestle his crippled airplane back over the Mediterranean Sea before ejecting and getting picked up by local fishermen who handed him over to pro-American partisans, who in turn handed him over to the U.S. Navy. A second CAG-6 A-7 was hit, but managed to safely trap back aboard Indy without incident. Post-strike analysis found that a few Syrian guns were destroyed, but the intensity of the enemy fire forced most of the attack aircraft to miss their targets. The analysis also uncovered the fact that the tasking authority had bungled the time zone difference between the east coast of the United States and the eastern Mediterranean, and that error robbed the carriers of 2 hours they could have used to better prepare for the strike. Official diplomatic efforts didn't yield any results as the Americans tried to get Lieutenant Goodman released from prison in Damascus. After a month of an impasse, civil rights leader Reverend Jesse Jackson went to Syria in an unofficial capacity and obtained his release. The Pentagon declared that the raid was a success without supplying any details that might support that assertion, and whatever those accomplishments were, they were disproportionate to the American losses. Those involved up and down the chain of command accepted that it was a failure, and as a result, the U.S. Navy established the Naval Strike and Air Warfare Center, which was later redesignated the Naval Aviation Warfare Development Command, better known as Strike U, at the Naval Air Station in Fallon, Nevada. Basically taking a page from the Top Gun playbook a decade or so earlier, when that school was created to fix the problem of fighters getting shot out of the skies over North Vietnam because of inferior tactics. In the years following its creation, the staff at Strike U have studied better ways of getting bombs on target while surviving intense SAM environments, and their tactical development has yielded more thorough mission planning processes, including streamlining strike coordination up and down the chain of command, multi-axis attacks instead of the Vietnam-era alpha strikes, what we call same-way, same-day profiles, and the development of standoff munitions that allow aircraft to stay out of AAA and IR SAM envelopes. Military aviation history is full of stories of innovation that comes after a disaster, and the Bekaa Valley raid is a signature example of that. All right, that'll do it for this episode. If you're not already a subscriber, become one so you don't miss anything going forward. And I'd love to see you in Annapolis on July 15th for Moochapalooza, a gathering of friends of the channel, featuring a showcase by my new band Danger Boy. Details for how to get tickets are in the episode description. Quantities are limited, so hurry. And in the meantime, I look forward to talking to you again very soon.